Morning everybody, my name's Zoe Seaman. I'm the Head of DesignOps and Accessibility in the Consumer Unit of BT Group. 7.5 years ago I was working at Capital One. An old colleague is actually in the audience, so it's nice to see. I was UX manager for a very small team of designers. We were testing building an in-house mobile app, and that test was successful, and the company really saw the investment of building an in-house design practice, and they brought in a wonderful design director, a lady called Aileen Beck, who had worked at eBay, and she had a design producer role in her eBay team. It was a much bigger design team, but she could see the huge benefit that having design ops within a design practice can have. And so she talked to me about this role, about having a deep, passionate empathy for design and also operational excellence, and those two things coming together sounded pretty good to me. And so I haven't looked back in this time and have had a great time with this community as well as in the roles that I've had. My background is in travel and finance, in roles in design, product and digital experience. And when asked to include my strengths, I see myself as a creative problem solver. I never take no or not possible. I will try and find a way, whether that's in work or outside of work. I am very results focused and pragmatic in my approach, and I've been described as an empathetic connector, someone who really enjoys working with teams and driving great results. Today we're here to talk to you about how we have unified our design ops worlds, which you'll hear more about, to make the lives of our designers easier, to save the company time and money, and to connect people both in our design teams and across the BT Group. Over to Antonella.
It is true, Zoe does not take no for an answer. The lovely Zoe, everyone. My name is Antonella, and I'm the Head of Design Operations in Enterprise Digital. Zoe's in Consumer. We'll cover that a little bit later. Unlike Zoe, I have been in a design operations role for just 1 year. I was brought into BT to achieve, initially one thing, build BT's design system. And then very quickly we realized that the enterprise side also needs a bit of design operations to kick off that design system. So what can I say? I didn't choose design operations chose me. My background is in digital and management consulting, across various industries. I go from fine art all the way to oil and gas. And I'm particularly passionate in building high-performing teams that deliver best-in-class, data-driven products. I'm going to run you through very quickly through our operating model, just so you can understand where Zoe and I sit in the organization. BT has 4 units. Consumer, which is where Zoe sits, which is a customer-facing unit. Then we have Enterprise, which is where I sit, which is our business-to-business unit. Then, of course, we have Global, which is also a business-to-business unit. You can see the complexities coming in, but caters for an audience outside of the United Kingdom. And we have corporate units, which cater for an internal BT audience, such as legal, our friends in procurement, HR. Every one of these units has a digital part, and Zoe and I sit in the digital parts in our respective units. And a little bit of insight, in April this year, so in a month, our 2 business units, Enterprise and Global, because it absolutely makes sense, will be merging. So whoever has been in an organization during a merger or restructure knows what I'm in for. Zoe and I began our journeys in BT almost a year ago, and this is very much what it looked like. We kicked off in phase 1, the innovation trigger. We came in to achieve our goals, build a design system, build out the design operations team. Everything was shiny and new. Motivation was through the roof. Then, very quickly, all the way to phase 2, the peak of inflated expectations, the honeymoon period. Everyone was so nice, so collaborative. Oh my gosh, it was ideal. Motivation is at an all-time high. And then, boom, we came face to face with how vast this organization is, how complex it is. Me in particular, in Enterprise, I walked in a team of 120 plus designers. There were no processes. There was no consistency in our user experience. I didn't even have a list of who is in the team. There was no org chart in our design organization. I didn't know who was who. And to add to that, BT has the most amount of acronyms I can ever think of. So very quickly, I went all the way from the honeymoon period to the trough of disillusionment, or what I want to call the pit of despair, where all my hopes and dreams to build a design system, kick off a DesignOps function, went to die. I'm kidding. Obviously, these roles have the right challenges for design operations freaks like us.
Absolutely.
So we were up for the challenge. And as we say, smooth seas seldomly make skillful sailors.
Easy for you to say.
I mean, what can we do? We have to silver lining, right? So we're all up for the challenge. And delightfully, it was at that very point where I connected with a lovely Zoe here, and I realized, oh my gosh, there's another design operations head, just like me, somewhere else in the BT universe. And we went from the slope of enlightenment to the plateau of productivity. Amazing. And all bright-eyed, wide-eyed, and bushy-tailed, we started sharing our ideas. Gosh, our ideas, our frustrations, everything. And of course, very quickly, we realized that our two units, and even though they were a mirror of each other, large design teams, just catered for a different audience, were very much disconnected. Nothing was shared. Absolutely nothing. Nothing from consumer was remotely coming into enterprise. And not just that, there was a third and fourth unit in the exact same situation. Remember, global and corporate? So we had 4 units. And that makes absolute sense, Zoe. Why? Because BT is vast.
It is vast. It is the world's oldest telecommunications company. It's got 170 years of history of technological innovation, and we're still a leader and innovator in this space. Here's some of our brands that you'll be familiar with: BT, EE, and PlusNet. We also have OpenReach, which is part of BT Group, but it also serves all the other telco providers in the UK. It's very much behind a lead wall. We don't talk to one another. We can't look at each other. It's, that's how it works. We can't even get out of the lift on the floor that OpenReach sits. So it's completely locked down.
Oh, well, we're not just classic telco. We have our fingers dipped in lots of pies. We're a very, very diverse business. I mean, we handle satellites and space comms, aviation, drones, Internet of Things, IoT services, both industrial and commercial.
There is a lot going on across all these units. We've got 31 million customers. We've got nearly 2,500 apps and 1.2 billion web and app visits per year, although that is nothing now that I've seen Carolina's 4.3 billion. So we've got work to do on that. And each of these units has got digital teams looking at strategy, product design, and engineering. And naturally, complexity emerges in the day-to-day management of these teams, where design is collaborating with cross-disciplinary teams to deliver user-centered outcomes. And that's where, the silos come about. We see that these can develop in all different spaces within design, within our partners. And this is where Antonella and I could see the opportunity. If we came together, we talked about our problems and our challenges. They were similar. Let's approach this as one and not do this in different spaces with not just us two, but we've got 2 other people as well. So it really made sense for us to come together.
So Zoe and I first have to establish our ways of working. Tick. Then we really had to acknowledge that we were at different phases in the design maturity. Like enterprise had nothing, and then consumer had something. We also had to respect that we had multiple and different priorities that would often drift us apart. And that's okay. That is what it is. And across all units, all those 4 units, we had 4 design directors. 4 design directors that we had to get to align.
Yeah, those were interesting meetings in the early days of joining together across our units.
So what could we do? We focused our intention on 3 things. 1, unifying, bringing everyone together. 2, getting rid of that complexity and simplifying. And 3, once we had something, evangelize it to the world. And I know for a team, for an audience such as yourselves, DesignOps professionals, these do not sound revolutionary, and they're not. They're the basics. Zoe and I, though, we had to go back to basics. Because why? Well, for me, for example, there was no design operations team. There was no design system. To achieve anything in BT, you had to go through multiple steps, and each one of those steps was handled by a different team with a different system that very often was not connected. And I didn't even have a design director in the team. We had to nick one from Dropbox. He's a really cool guy, by the way.
So our first goal to unify, we still operate individually in our own units, but we could see that benefit of coming together. And so we kicked off what we've called the single design practice. This is about the units that we're in, so consumer, enterprise, global and corporate units, coming together under a single design practice in order to find the one way that we want to practice user-centered design. This is about finding the places where it doesn't make sense for us to have differences. It makes sense for us to operate as a single practice for our design roles, our team structures, the processes that our design teams follow, the skills, methods, tools and templates, all of these things. It made sense for us to not be doing things differently. And a key one here is our One Design community. We very much focus on building the culture in our own units, but how could we bring together the whole design community and really have that sense of BT Group design?
Goal 2. Now we're trying to simplify. And we tackled, what else? Tooling. When I first started a year ago, specifically in enterprise, we had designers working off different tools that were doing the exact same thing. I mean, 120 designers working off different tools, doing different things on different component libraries. It was crazy. So, first things first, we reduced the number of tools. Then we centralized those contracts. I say that, it's not an easy feat. That is complex, so that's dealing with procurement. We're not going to go into the details of that. Once we centralized those contracts, and we were on the same instance of that tool, we were able to simplify and standardize our folder structures across all the units. This very quick win got us to streamline our tooling, cost savings for the company, ching ching, Zoe and I got gold stars. Then we shared the procurement pain.
Yes,
Zoe's smiling now.
Yeah, no.
And the consistency of experience of other teams working with design and designers working with each other improved tremendously. We also tackled our role structures. And again, going back a year ago, coming in all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, I realized that in enterprise, you could have one midweight product designer and then another also midweight product designer with different titles doing the exact same things. We had multiple titles out there. So we removed the complexity and we clearly defined the roles and responsibilities. And with that, we now have given our designers clarity, not just on their roles and their job titles, but also on their structure and their career pathways, which is extremely important to us. And the transfer opportunities between our units increased tremendously.
Alongside the role structure, we looked at our career pathways. Our offboarding information was telling us that we were losing people because they didn't have a pathway that they wanted to take their career. This was relating specifically to our individual contributor path. If you were a designer moving up the levels, at a point you'd have to move into design manager, which is about people management, and we know that not everyone wants to do that. They want to focus on their craft, they want to continue to build themselves to be a complete expert in their field. So we've introduced our mastery track where people can continue up developing their profession. This has diversified the opportunities that we're giving to our people, and it's also created a much greater variety of skills. Since bringing in our principal designers, we've seen our level of design quality really increase. They're mentoring our junior designers. It really is giving a fully rounded, all-level view of the different roles that we've got in the team. We also found, when talking to one another, that we were doing multiple skills mapping. Like, how do we know what level of skill people have got? Where are the gaps? This has been mentioned already in previous talks. So we came together, we created our skills matrix for every role that we've got in the team. The managers have this as a tool. You've got all the different skills attributes for the different roles, the expected level that you want people to get to. And this is setting clear expectations for people to know like what level are they, how do they get to the next level. And it also has allowed us to identify those gaps in people's development. How can we close those gaps? You know, is there training that we can do in-house? Is there peer-to-peer training? Can we train across units? It really helped us identify all of these opportunities for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then my absolute favourite, simplifying recruitment. So we were really getting in each other's way when we were hiring. We had job adverts in the market for the same titled roles, but slightly different adverts. Our candidates were telling us it was confusing. It's all BT to them. Like, what does this mean? What are the differences? So we reduced our adverts in market from 4 to 1, so you would no longer see 4 same job adverts for BT. We worked with our internal recruitment partners to connect with them to streamline that pipeline of candidates. And we also introduced a single interview process. We knew that we were having scenarios where a candidate would interview with consumer on a Monday and with enterprise on a Wednesday, and it was just a really rubbish experience. And so we brought this single interview process together. No surprises that there's cost and time saving here. This is the reduced time to hire that Pat mentioned at the start. We've seen a 45% reduction in the time it takes that someone applies to being offered a role. This has taken out a lot of anxiety and confusion for candidates, and it's created a much better candidate experience. So really proud of this one.
And now we reach our third goal. It was time to amplify, evangelize the work that we had done to our team. And while we worked with a significant number of our team members to produce most of our artifacts, there were still members out there that were trying to recreate the wheel. So we decided, okay, now we have to centralize and put everything in one place and accessible, communicate it. So we launched our single design practice playbook. Our playbook has a whole bunch of information in there. It talks about our people, our processes, our tooling, how we practice user-centered design, how we build, measure, learn. It also has a page demystifying all of BT's acronyms. Where was that when I first started? It's great for onboarding. The content was sourced from all units, not just enterprise or consumer. Corporate were involved, global were involved. So it caters for the entire design audience in BT. And we also conducted research to really understand what content to prioritize and to surface, and what we need to prioritize first, second, and third. Now, our designers have the knowledge at their fingertips. They're better able to self-serve, and they're no longer coming to Zoe and I, which is great. No, we're not acting as bottlenecks, that is great. We have an engaged audience because we crowdsourced that information. It was built by the people for the people. And now it's acting as a single source of truth, not just for our partners, but our designers as well. And design leadership. We really wanted to amplify our design leadership. And this one is really close to my heart because I don't actually think we've done enough. I think we really need to do a lot more on this. But 18 months ago, BT scaled up very fast, incredibly fast. And because we had so many new design roles in, we introduced design manager roles to be able to support these designers. And naturally, designers that wanted to move into a management career took on these roles, which is great. That's what we wanted for them, to lead their careers where we want them to. However, they didn't necessarily have design leadership training. And even though BT did have standard management training, we really wanted to hone the design leadership skills. And so we organized design leadership skills training. This has helped our design managers have 51% greater confidence in design leadership subject matter areas. And it's improved employee satisfaction, not just from the design managers that are doing their jobs confidently and correctly, but also for their direct reports that properly feel supported.
And finally, how do we amplify our design community? As I said, within our own units, we're building our culture and we have our all hands and the time that we spend together. But we wanted to have a single design practice community event And so quarterly we run the imaginatively titled Very Big Design Gathering. The individual units is just the big design gathering. So the Very Big Design Gathering, we have these across all of the different hubs. We've got various hubs in the UK, we've got a hub in India. These happen, as I say, quarterly. It connects that community. We do show and tells, we do best practice, we do like talks from around the business. It's really about bringing those teams together and breaking down the silos in our design teams so that no longer do designers pass each other in the corridor and not to know necessarily which unit, or is this someone I could talk to? Could this person help with my problem in my consumer space when they work in enterprise? So really pleased with how these are going, and they seem pretty popular with the teams as well. So that's it then. That's the journey that we've been on and the things that we've done. And we just want to share about some of the things that we've learned. When we were pulling this presentation together, these things came to mind when we were talking it through, and about how important it's been for Antonella and I and our peers in the other units to be really clear on what our common goals are. We do have our own priorities, and we had a bunch of things we wanted to go after in the single design practice, and we started to go after quite a few, but it wasn't until we honed in on one at a time and made progress and delivered that we really started seeing the results. It's been really important to be clear on our capacity. We've got our own teams to lead and our own units, so being clear on who can take up what work when has been key, as well as being honest about how we're feeling and being there for one another. I feel within this community as a whole, and DesignOps as a profession, is, you know, people are genuine and are trusted, you know, offer trust to one another, and we've done that since day one, and it's been really key to us moving forward and just having those open conversations on how we can progress and have real impact. And then finally, getting regular feedback from our teams. We've done a lot of stuff, as you've seen. It's all been in service of those that we work with and the teams that we're on. But knowing that you're doing the right thing and finding out if it's having the impact you want is really key. So we'll leave you again with these takeaways. When you're trying to enable design in a complex organisation, think about these 3 goals. First is to unifying everything that you do and connecting everyone that you serve. To simplify, design those intuitive processes for your team. And finally, amplify, building that strong and inclusive design culture. It's been a fantastic year of working with Antonella and the work that we've done. We're really proud of the impacts that we've had. We now want to go back, do some more, look at those creative DesignOps areas that we could focus on, and maybe we will come back next year and share with you where we get to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.